welcome to Wonder.wander Homeschool. My name's Shauna and I'm going to be going today over my incoming second graders language arts and reading and spelling curriculum that I chose. It's brand new for me. I have only been able to read an online version of a review. I have not been able to find a YouTube version review of this curriculum, and I don't really know why, except for I know it is a little bit more hands-on, and that might be why it's not as popular to be videoed. So let's give it a look. I'm really excited. I'm really hopeful that this will really help my daughter to feel really confident in reading, and that's something that she's not very confident in. So let's see. So we have, this is called English Lessons Through Literature. This is the level Blossoming. So this is the, I think the second, it can be second or third grade. And so since she is going into second grade, we're gonna be doing this one. Technically, it's just from, let's see, who is it? What publishing is this? This is, that might be part of the reason. Publishing company. I guess it's Barefoot.meandering.com. Barefoot Ragamuffin curricula. So you can go on that website and you can see this from their site. Or you can also look on Rainbow Resources, which I absolutely love. So they have, this is the workbook. So this is all the different things that they would have for like copy work or writing or drawing, pictures. Yeah, this one is the workbook. So this will go along with the curriculum. And it's nice because you don't have to waste your own paper or print out any paper. They give you lines, they give you the right kind of spacing for smaller or bigger spacing. And as you go, you can see that they kind of make it longer, the dictations. And that's that right there, still similar. I also have reading and spelling through literature, so we'll look at that too. So before we get into the language arts, we'll do the reading and then spelling. This is something that I definitely want to make sure my second grader catches up with. We did not do too much spelling this last year, and I know spelling is a really great way to help struggling readers start to kind of get the hang of everything. So we have their spelling lists that you go by, and they have different ways that you can do. They also have readers that go along with it. So I went through and highlighted all this. It does seem a little overwhelming, but I think it's going to be really worth it. So it's teaching, not testing. So like basically this curriculum does not encourage at all doing spelling tests, but to really just keep helping them and have them just use practice to remember. So this is teaching, not testing. So if the student cannot remember how to write a phonogram, simply remind them and move on to the next phonogram. So let's see. So they're roughly equivalent to grade level. So book 1 for first grade, book 2 for second grade, etc. And if you're teaching reading from scratch, they should start with the primer, regardless of age or grade. So the part 1 is the phonograms. Reading and spelling instruction begins with teaching the phonograms. This phonogram teaches 75 basic phonograms, 75 basic phonograms. Keep in mind there are some slight differences between O through G programs, or Engillium, which is more for people who tend to be on the dyslexic side or having learning disabilities for reading. It makes it a lot simpler because it's very phonetically based. But there are some slight differences regarding which phonograms are taught, each dependent on what makes most sense to the author. They have free flashcards you can download. So for spelling lists, you can dictate the spelling words, begins after students have learned their phonograms. So they don't want you to even start doing the spelling until they've really been able to be pretty confident with their phonograms. So a spelling test has absolutely no benefit to the child. They said, please don't do them. So the brain will ever so efficiently store away each multisensory mistake, leaving 2 or more different ways to spell each word lodged in the brain, which makes a lot of sense because my daughter tried to memorize her phonograms, didn't apply them, and then whenever she would kind of be learning the sneaky E, she would do the wrong way, or with B's and D's, she says the wrong one because she's had to remember the right one so many times. So they have different options that you can schedule. They are really helpful with these different ideas. I was thinking of doing one list every 3 to 4 days. And you also have workbooks that give more practice with their spelling words each week. I will probably just do, unless, I think that might not be the workbook that goes with it. So I think I'm just going to use a notebook, like a spiral notebook. Let's see. So a regular schedule, completing 1 or 2 spelling lists per week, depending on your pace you want to keep. Move on to the next book when you finish. So this can be the sweet spot. At 1 list per week, your student will continue to make steady progress, through which it will take longer to get through the books. And that's okay. At 2 lists per week, you'll complete 1 book and start within in the same school year, you'll end up going through to the next book. Either way, you'll have standard days of the week to complete particular lessons. The slower pace will also get the job done with less stress to both the child and instructor. And because of, she basically says for what she did for her kids, one of the kids was more advanced and one of them was not, and she just went at their pace and it worked out really well. So she gives a lot of encouragement. I really love that the curriculum author did this. And yeah. Sometimes she said, also remember, they might be frustrated, and it's okay to be frustrated. They need that frustration. They need to have time to work and have it soak in. So you just gotta have patience. So they have part 1. I also had 1 list every 3 days for what I want to do. So it's like, make sure you can teach the phonograms. They have a bunch in the back. So this is all the details on that. So they have all of these right here that you can copy, or you can just go over them. Or just like she said, you can also print online all of them. So for new readers, have them trace it in the air. So that's something I'll probably do with her brother. And they have all these spelling rules, 30 spelling rules that you can kind of go over. These are all the basic phonograms, which looks like a lot, but because you have the papers in the back, you're going over them. You take your time going through them. When they feel like they can do these sounds pretty well, then you start on the spelling list. So these ones start with like the most common. Spelling lists are made up of some of the most common words in the English language. So it makes sense because that's going to be in most of what they read. So as they're starting to read these younger books, you want them to have confidence in what they know. So I said 1 list every 3 days and do 10 per list. I'm also doing the phonograms over the summer to practice. So hopefully we don't have to spend too long, but some people, I think she said, spend about 2 months of the school year on the phonograms before they start on the spelling lists. So that's okay. And this is all based on just the reading and spelling part of your school day. She does things differently than some. So does she breaks it up a little differently, and they kind of teach you how that works, like how many syllables does it have, naughty. So that's where the syllable is. I've seen it in different ways in the way that I've been teaching. So this will be a little bit of a change, but if it helps her to get more confident in her reading, it is so worth it. And they have different rules for these. So it does look like a lot. This is going to take some time as a parent to sit down and read all of this and highlight it like I did so you can look back when you do start getting to it to make sure you teach it the right way. It is definitely very hands-on teaching curriculum, but I know the curriculum I had for her, something that is more lighter, is just not going to get her to learn it with the confidence that she needs. So this will make it really solid, and I really believe it will be worth the effort to put into it. So they go through the water's fresh and clear. Clear, how many syllables does this have? Just 1. The first phonogram is k, s. The next phonogram is u. The next phonogram is e. I even have to look over these. The last phonogram is Underline any multi-letter phonogram. Say each sound and then read the words. So this is for if they're getting more advanced. So these are kind of little extra things. Underline each multi-letter phonogram if they have them. There's little extra things they can do, but mainly the bullet points are supposed to be what you're supposed to do there. And they go through irregular and proper nouns, vowel suffixes. These are things that she's already gone over. So this part will probably be a lot faster as she gets going with her reading skills because she's memorized a lot of them. She's kind of forced herself to kind of fight through remembering how they work. And I think this is just going to have it hopefully fit all the puzzle pieces together for her. That would be wonderful. And I'm really excited for that. I'm really hopeful. And I just have to figure out scheduling amongst the 3 of them to make sure that I can give this. It's going to take some one-on-one time for her reading side and her language arts for my incoming 2nd grader. And then eventually they start reading these stories. So the cool thing is they do it in these readers. They have all the things they learned about the underlining and like the syllables, all that stuff, so they can read it that way and then slowly, hopefully, get more comfortable with the words and then read it without having those. So it's really good. So it's kind of teaching grammar as she goes, kind of, because it's getting the syllables down. But this will be something interesting. I'm really curious about it. Like I said, I wasn't able to get any parents' point of view on it for the reading and spelling at all. I don't think. I believe for the other one, there definitely wasn't, other than just a, online, like, written review that someone did. And it wasn't, it kind of told you what was in there. It didn't really tell you much about it. Now this, I had to find it. I realized I didn't bring it out. So this is the older version, older cover, older volume of this one. So the one that is the modern volume that they're selling is going to have this picture of the Alice falling down with a fairy. This one is the picture. It has little like Toto and the Wizard of Oz. It kind of looks like some Greek something. I'm not really sure what was going on with the picture, but I got it on a really good deal. And since it had pretty much the same stuff in it, this one does have more religious base. This one I took out, I believe, most of the religious based points. So I wanted to try this one since it was such a great deal. It was like $11 because it was on clearance. So I want to try it out. It didn't look that different from what they changed. It just, they might have changed a few stories. I think that's about it. So you got... So it says right here, I think I wrote down copywork, morning, evening, kind of not homework, but basically they want you to do copywork in the morning and copywork in the evening. So they're getting the copywork through their act of like kinesthetically as well as visually through in the morning and the evening. So it'd be like when we start school, and then maybe later on in the day I'll find some time for her to do it one more time. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully she'll be willing to do that. And this is, again, like one that didn't have any videos on it. So it's really made me more curious than anything. And the way that it is, if you read all this, there's a lot of reading to do before you start. I feel like it does prepare you, even if you are not someone who has a degree for teaching language arts, which I do not. So let's see. Narrations occur every 2 weeks. Okay. Then you have some memory work. So like I think in this one, sometimes they're Bible verses, but mainly looks like there's poems. And I think they just switched it to not having Bible verses in the newer version. Let's see. So it says in level 2, this is where I'm starting. That's what this book is. The narration will be printed or written for the child to use as a copywork for that day. So they'll have the narration in here. Next, the child begins telling the story without the picture. So first they draw and explain them, then they start telling the story without the picture, but they can still draw a picture, but they just need to tell you the story instead of just draw it. And then they begin copying their own words. Finally, begin to writing the story down themselves without orally narrating it first. So the final stage is not covered in this book. So they're not writing it down without orally narrating it first. They're just doing copywork, but they want you to tell the story without the picture. And they can also draw the picture, but they need to tell the story and then copy their own words that they wrote down. So whether I write it down and then they copy that, and then they write down the story themselves eventually. So that's not yet. So this year she's just going to be telling the story, writing a picture if she wants to, but then also writing down the words of the story, of the narration that she does. Then there's memory work. So they suggest the first poem of the level that you memorize it and kind of go from there as they get things memorized. And so there is a Bible verse to be used as copywork every 2 weeks, beginning lesson 38. So that means in here there should be 2. Memorizing these verses, unless you already have memory verses from like your church. She gave some tips with like use a 5x index cards, and you can have like a current. Like we're working on this memory stuff, whether it's memory pieces of little excerpts, which I believe there's some of that in here. That's some of the copy work as well. There might be, but she said like there's some poems that they go through that you start with that and you kind of go from there through the book And so you can have it be like, okay, we're working on this first poem, then there's short-term review and long-term review. And they even have a whole like way to process of how to do that. So it's like, okay, in the current section, read them 3 times a day until it's memorized. The card can then move over to the short term, and that can be reviewed just once a week. And so then like you're working on something all the time, but then you're also reviewing and not completely just dumping, which is something that I know my children have a habit of doing. I know I have a habit of doing as well. So, and then there's long-term review section, which once a month you come back. And so you can put it in like a little box with note cards. Like I said, it seems like a lot of upfront work, but I feel like it's a big payoff. And we'll find out. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but that is why I'm doing this YouTube. So optional workbook. So that's what I got this workbook for. And the copy work is already typed in handwriting and font, so you don't have to type or write it. So then just copy it. And they even have it in different styles. So if you, like, I have it in regular print, but you can do it in cursive. You can do it in slanted italics, like whatever your preference is for them to learn how to copyright. You can do that. So I might switch that, but I really want to focus on printing because I have really bad printing handwriting, and I want to make sure that they keep it as neat as possible. So they also give you literature list, which is The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, Blue Fairy Book, Peter Pan, Wind in the Willows, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, Through the Looking Glass, and A Wonder Book for Girls. So I'm really excited for these very classical books, some really full and wonderful books to read that I can read aloud with her. And so it kind of has like, okay, you read chapter 1, and then you're learning that. A noun is a name of a person, place, or thing or idea. And they talk about their little lesson. You kind of talk with them. And they talk about different parents and like how you have your aunt and your uncle and family members. So how nouns could be names. So this is like a lot of review for her from her Good and the Beautiful, I would say right now, but just the way to go about it is completely brand new. So that should be interesting. So this is the first poem they probably want you to memorize, start working on. It is pretty short. So Clouds by Christina Rossetti. White sheep on a blue hill. When the wind stops, you all stand still. When the wind blows, you walk away slow. White sheep, where did you go? So that would be something that you would practice, like they said, like 3 times a day. And then they have a story where we'd read the story to them. And then the exercise. Underline the nouns that name people from the passage. So they'd have to do that. That would be the exercise. Copy work would be the literature. There's a cyclone coming in, he called his wife, and that's all that they would copy. And the poetry, Clouds, white sheep on a blue hill. When the wind stops, you all stand still. And you just practice that, the amount of times that it says to do that. So it seems pretty simple. And so I would read this, and then I would have her retell me the narrative, and then she could draw it if she wants, but she just would need to retell it to me. And I think that's kind of how a lesson would go. And then it goes to the next one, common and proper nouns. And then you also read the read aloud of, that is the book of the week. So you have The Wizard of Oz, chapter 2. And then it just keeps on going until it gets to the next one. It looks like the poems get a little longer, but it doesn't seem, yeah, it doesn't. And I think they just let you go on your own pace for the memorization because it doesn't necessarily tell you to memorize. It just has you keep going. And there is no instructor book for this. This one is just, it kind of has it in here. Let's see. So it's and that's pretty much it. So I hope that that helps. I will have a lot more to say after we try it. And if we go through the entire school year, I will let you know if this is worth having a YouTube video on. So I hope you have a great day. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.